Hi, you're very welcome along to another video tutorial. My name is Will Hogan. Today we're going to be looking at how to join tables together in MySQL. To give you a visual representation, first of all, I think it's important that we just get some clarification as to how a join happens. On this diagram you can see we have a database, and within that database we have two tables, table A and table B. A join happens when we literally join table A to table B side by side, not on top of each other. That's a separate thing called a union. But table A to table B, they're joined sideways, side by side. So that's how it joins. If you've been following along on our previous my previous tutorial posts, you'll be well up to speed with regard to creating tables, databases, and inserting information into tables and doing some select queries to retrieve information from tables. But today this is all about joins. So without further ado, let's have a quick look at how we do a join. As I said, log into your MySQL. Once you have your prompt, you're good to go. And I did say also in previous tutorials it's a very good idea to have some kind of text editor. I'm using Notepad++, it's free to download, and I find it very, very useful. You can of course type in the code as you go along in here in the MySQL command prompt, but I would strongly suggest that you don't do that, and you opt instead for copying it into a text editor first, and then copying that from there into the prompt. It's a lot easier and it'll save a lot of heartache. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at how to actually create a join. So first of all, let me just use the tables that we were using in our previous tutorials. So it's the doctor patient table, and if you recall, we have two tables within that. Okay, so doctor and patient. So let's have a quick refresh about what's inside the doctor table. And what's inside the patient table. Great, so we've got our information. Now we want to join that information together to collect we want to join those tables side by side and collect certain information. So we're going to say, for example here, we want to select the title, first name and last name from the doctor table, and we want to join it to the first name, last name, and I don't know, let's say PPS number of the patient table. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go back to our Notepad++ or our text editor that we're going to use, and we're going to type in the following, and I'll explain what I'm doing as I go along, but right now let's just type along. Select d.d_id, which is the doctor ID, or doctor ID. I'll explain about this in a minute. Again, it might sound a bit convoluted or complex, but don't worry, I'll explain it in a second. What do we say? The first name and last name. So we go d.f name, d.l name. So that's the three columns that we want to select from the doctor table. We want to join it to our first name, last name, and PPS of our patient table. Great. Okay. So it's p.f name, p.l name, and p.pps. Great. Click return. Now we have our column selected. We want to now join the tables together. So we go from doctor as D, inner join patient as P, on D dot D underscore ID is equal to P dot D underscore ID. Great. That's our select. I'm going to explain what happens in a second. Let's run it first. Control C. You can Control V on the actual command prompt. So what you got to do is you got to right click and go paste the old fashioned way, and then just click return. Okay, so it's worked. It's successful. Now to explain how this works. So we've essentially selected our column names here, but this information at the start, this D big word, this D and this P. Where are they coming out? Well, we're going to use aliasing, or we've used aliasing here. And we're saying from the doctor table as D. So essentially we could have done that for each one, except it's just one letter and you're declaring it here as D. So that's what we do. That's the easier way to do it. You want to inner join, that's the syntax. Now there's a different type of a join called a comma join, which I'm not particularly fond of myself. I'd much rather use the inner join, which shows you exactly what you're joining on regarding the table, and it's explaining what parts are joined to what. It's much better, bit more code, a couple of lines more code, but better in the long run, easier to read. So inner join the patient table as P. So there, we're going to do the same thing again. We're saying the patient table again. That was the same thing as doing that, but we're not doing that because we've declared it once here as P, and we just want to use that alias every time we want to call on a particular column name. And the last part then is actually how it joins. Now this is tricky. I know there's a lot of things going on here, but if you can just imagine that the D, as I mentioned, is the alias, the P is the alias for the doctor and patient tables, and essentially it's joining on the doctor ID table, or sorry, beg your pardon, the doctor ID from the doctor table, joining on the patient doctor ID on the patient table. Doctor ID is on the patient table is the foreign key, and it's also the primary key on the doctor table. So that's where the common join, that's where the link is. This is the whole concept between about a relational database. This is the relation between the two tables. And that is essentially it. Yeah, so it's going to join on those IDs, because that's the common ID, and it's going to return matching rows. What do I mean by matching rows? Well, we can see that we only have 2 patients in our patient table, and it's telling us that those patients have 2 doctors, Marcus Keeling and Frank Patterson. But how do we get information on the doctors who don't have patients in this particular database? Well, we simply just change the inner to left join. Go again, rinse, repeat, and now it's going to give you information on all the doctors, but we have this null value inside these inside the rows for the doctor, because the doctors don't essentially have any patients except the first 2. So the null, and I suppose the best way to explain null, and not just with MySQL, I'm sure with Java, C#, C++, C, is quite simply, it's undefined. If you have a closed box in front of you, you don't know what's inside. There could be something in it, there could be nothing in it. You don't know. It's undefined. And that's the best way to explain null. It's not nil or 0 or any other value, it's null. It's undefined. But essentially they're the 2 joins that people are going to use the most. And there's lots of other things you can do. As I said, there's comma joins, just switching things around. There's another join called a right join, which is essentially just swapping. You can swap things around, and you can use a right join. But I'm not going to get into that. That's just simply the basics of how to do a join. I will show you before I go, before we finish this tutorial, how to then bring in something else. So let's go back to our inner join, take out that, and go, I don't know, where, let's say d.did equals 1. So that will then give us back just 1 row. So then you can kind of bring in your where clause, and then you can say order by you know, d.f name ascending, and then it'll put it into, now of course with this we only have 1 result coming back, but if you had, like, you know, where f name is equal to Frank or something like that, or we'll say speciality, or the doctor specialises in, is equal to some particular thing, then you can order alphabetically by whatever column you want. But in this case, it's not really relevant because we only have the one column, or the one row returned. So that's joins in a nutshell. Great. I hope you found it useful. I know it's confusing. If you need any questions or need any questions answered, please feel free to send a comment on my post, and I'd be glad to assist you with any problems you have. Until my next post, I'd like to thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.